Right, good evening. Does everyone, all the panel and everyone, want to turn on their screens so we can say hi? We've got more than 2,000 of you out there, so thank you very much for joining us. Particularly big thanks to our panel. I don't know where they are on your screens. I'm for some reason in the top, but first I'd love to say hi to Jane Mangan, who is teleporting her way in from Ireland. If you're not familiar who Jane is, and she's a presenter for RTE and for racing television, and she's a jockey and she's a breeding expert, and I guess with 23 winners last year for the Irish at Cheltenham, she might be the sort of person to give us some insight into what the thoughts are there and what the things are there. So Jane, a very warm welcome to you. Also a very warm welcome to Venetia Williams, who's one of the trainers for Old Gold Racing. She trains Tokyo Live for us. Jane, Venetia, you're currently 5th now. You've been usurped from your 4th place in the Trainers Championship, but still from a very low proportion of runners, which is really impressive. And obviously this season you've been ripping it up with Charlie Deutsch, 55 winners. Then we have 12 times champion Paul Nicholls. I've already listened to a preview that Paul's done, so I don't want to preempt too much what he says, but he has some very interesting insights to some of his own horses for Cheltenham, and hopefully we'll be serving it back to the Irish a little bit. You know, we don't want the Cotswolds to go completely green. I'm going to come to Sam Hockenhull in a minute because there's some sort of things to say about Fitzdares that I want to. But lastly, this panel is going to be corralled by Old Gold Racing's own Francesca Cumani of ITV Racing and Channel 10 in Australia and Channel 9 in Australia, and just all around the place, you know, does good racing stuff. So Francesca, thank you very much for coming and doing this. Thank you all very much. Introducing all you 2,000 plus people to Sam Hockenhull. Our great gambling friends at Old Gold Racing are Fitzdares. We like Fitzdares a lot. They do fun things with us. We encourage people to open accounts with them. Sam, you're the sort of #1 trader. You're the guy who takes all the risks for
yes, yeah, for horse racing. Yeah, that's my job. Yeah, manage the risk. Now, so we'll see how that goes next week.
I'm going to just, I get accused of waffling a lot, by the way, so I will try and be really quick. Thanks, Jessica. But there are sort of 3 things that I want to say vis-a-vis Fitzdares. Firstly, because you're at a Cheltenham preview, you'll need a notebook and a pen to write down all the information that you're about to get. Although we will put a recording of this on YouTube eventually. You'll also need a calculator so you can work out exactly how much money you're going to make. In your pen and with your pen and paper, if you open an account with Fitzdares, and why this is important will come in a second, you'll get some special, in fact, I'm going to tell you right now, Sam's going to give us some special bets on the night, which will be open pretty much only for this evening and maybe 24 hours. To get the bets on, you'll need to open an account, and you'll need to do it on either chat or by ringing the office. So the first thing you need to write down, if you haven't already got an account, and it needs to be an OGR, Old Gold Racing labeled account, to take advantage of the enhancements. The web domain is www.fitzdares.com/Fitzdares-online/OGR. That will probably appear in the chat during the course of the evening, but I strongly advise you, if you haven't opened a Fitzdares account, to do so, because you can take advantage of some of the things that we're doing. We also offer, or Fitzdares do rather, when our own horses run, we offer better odds and extra plays, all that kind of thing. So Sam will provide some Cheltenham boosts and specials tonight. I would also really like to thank the Old Gold Racing team who put all this together. Hannah, who put the panel together with Francesca, and also Ron, who did all the design, and James, who's doing the tech, and Lara and Holly and Matt and Daisy and everybody. Thank you for all doing that. I've probably done all my bits now. You'll get the tips in our social media. We're going to run, I'll let Francesca explain how she's going to run the rest of the evening until about 5 minutes past 9, when my chicken will nearly be ready. At which time I'll come back, and I'm going to all night, feel free to put questions into the text thing on the right, and I will ask a selection of the questions to whichever panelist you are seeking the answers from, and then we'll wrap it up. And I think the plan is to be all over by kind of 9:15, 9:30. But again, panel, thank you very, very much for agreeing to take part in this. I'm going to disappear, hand over to Francesca, and point of order.
You do, Ed. Actually, just quickly, because I've noticed we've got lots of people saying hi in the chat, which is great. And we've also got one person who's written a question in the Q&A, just so people know, where are they submitting questions to?
Well, if they put them in the chat, what will happen is James is watching them and he's going to forward them to me. And I think the Q&A should be at the end. So everyone watch the chat, have a nice time. If there's something, Francesca, that you see that you particularly want to use, then do. But we'll try and save the questions right for the end, or at least the majority of them. Does that make sense?
But people submit questions to the chat.
That's fine. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good.
Great.
And if
well,
you want to ask some, that's great. But if you don't, we'll try and choose the best ones and ask the panel later.
I'm very proud of you. Very waffle-free. Great introduction. Thank you. What's on the chicken menu?
Garlic and Mediterranean-style vegetables. And some roasted garlic with that, and a glass of white wine. I'm not going to have red wine this time, because when we did this time last year, during the hour and a half of the preview, my mouth went completely red and I didn't notice. I already looked like a magic mushroom in a sort of white top and red face. Anyway, yes, well, I will.
A glass of wine is freely encouraged. Venetia, Paul, Jane, I think I saw you nursing a cup of tea, but for everyone, please feel free to have a slurp now and again. There well we done, go. Paul. Good work.
I will love you and see you all in a sort of an hour and a bit's time.
Okay. Right then, I think we should crack on with the preview without too much ado. I know Ed said we'd be wrapping things up around 9:30, but I'm all for speedy previews, and I know you guys. It's such a busy time of year for both Venetia and Paul, training all your horses, preparing for Cheltenham, and I imagine you're hugely in demand for interviews, for previews, etc., etc. And Jane, also, there's a lot of prep that goes into, trying to decide what horses we like, isn't it, for Cheltenham, and what we're going to say and our opinions, etc., etc. But Paul, I'll just come to you first. With 46 Cheltenham Festival winners under your belt, how bored are you this year of questions about your smaller than usual team going to the festival?
Honestly, I don't take any notice. You can only run what you've got to be competitive. You have to be realistic. I've learned that, and over the years, you run. When you're a bit sort of younger and enthusiastic, you run a lot of horses you shouldn't run that finish downfield, and you think, why the hell did I do that? See, we have to be realistic and competitive, and run horses who've got chances. And there's no point having social runners. Andy Stewart, God bless him, always used to like all his to run. He used to like social runners. So now Andy's sadly gone on. We haven't got to run any of his for this case of having a social day out. So you have to be realistic. I'm competitive. I want to run the horses where they can be competitive, whether it's at Cheltenham or Aintree or Ayr or Sandown. There's no point going just for a jolly day out. It's competitive stuff, and you've got to be competitive.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing which of your horses you fancy the most. But Venetia, we were very lucky to come to your yard, this day last week, I suppose. And I know one thing that was worrying you was, snotty noses, essentially, with the horses. But plenty of winners, a couple of winners over the weekend. Is it just a case of horse by horse and you just run what you can?
Just trying to be as vigilant as possible and not run those that clearly look sick. What's quite encouraging was that we did run a horse that ran a career best, and he finished a close second. And then within 24 hours, he's got a dirty nose, which is quite encouraging, really, because it's kind of telling you that what you see is what you've got. I'd certainly wish we didn't have it at this time.
Yeah, gosh, I can imagine of all the times of year to get snotty noses, this would just be a proper tear your hair out time of year. Hopefully the big guns are in good order, and hopefully we might find out who's going for which races. L'Empresse in particular comes to mind. Have you made a decision yet?
It's going to be decided by the weather, but his part owner, Andy Edwards, was up this morning, and I know he's very keen to step the horse up to the 3 miles. Yeah, and he said it. It depends on the weather. If we get plenty of rain, which will make the 2.5 mile a stamina test, I think we'll stick with that. But yeah, I'm afraid looks like we might have to be taking on Brave Man's Game and others. Looks a strong division, definitely.
Yeah, it really does. And Jane, I know you told me you do 5, you limit yourself to 5 Cheltenham Festival previews a year, but just tell me, with each preview, do you stick to what you've said throughout, or how often do you change your mind?
Funny you asked that, because I learn something new with every preview. Like I've just learned from Venetia that Long Presse might do this, whereas it's literally by the time I get to the end, I almost have very little homework to do for Cheltenham week, because it's almost the build up to the monster is bigger than the monster itself, as you will know. And I know weather plays a big part. A lot of people are discussing, oh, you should go there to avoid certain horses, but every division of a grade 1 is you're going to meet a good horse, and particularly with WP Mullins being the best poker player in the place, not telling anybody where his cards are really going to be played, it's very hard for people to make up their minds. So when we're talking about the Supreme, I could name a horse that's eventually going to run in the Ballymore. So it's still a little bit of, there's a puzzle to be played yet, and I do limit myself because I get stale, and I don't want somebody listening to me when I'm not interested, So it's a pleasure to be on such a good panel. I feel very privileged actually this evening.
Well, we are very privileged to have you, and I hope you're as fresh as a daisy and ready to give some good insight. We've kind of picked out the best races, essentially, so a lot of the grade 1s. Obviously, some races, Venetia and Paul are well represented, and others less so. We're looking less at the handicaps, but if anyone has a particularly strong feeling, I know Venetia, you've got lots of runners in the handicaps, let's pepper them in, or I'm sure there'll be questions from everyone listening later on in the day. And like Ed said, we'll keep them for the end after we've previewed each day. And I imagine with some races we'll probably end up repeating ourselves to an extent, where horses are doubly entered, as will be the case with the very first race that we're going to look at, which is the Supreme Novices Hurdle over the 2 miles. And Jane, I'm going to come to you probably initially with most of these races, just to kind of set it up and give us an overview and a flavour of the race. So take it away.
Take it away. Well, the Supreme Novice is probably the best novice event, best novice hurdle run at the festival, no doubt. It almost takes a horse of a champion hurdle rating to win the race. So it was interesting when I was going down through some of the ratings that Constitution Hill is a rating of 148. Typically that wouldn't be good enough, but we can't take away from what he's achieved so far. Willie Mullins is just, he's the enigma code. If he told us where the horses were going, I'm a big Dysart Dynamo fan. He reminds me a little bit of Undeso. The way he runs suggests stepping up in trip won't suit, but then Sir Gerhard gets backed into favoritism in the last couple of days, suggesting that he will go there, and he's the champion bumper winner who had the speed to quicken up off of Fall's pace from last year. Then everybody's forgetting the fact that Kilcrut is in there. He actually beat Sir Gerhard when they met again in Punchestown. He's beaten on his 2 hurdle starts this year, but when he won at Punchestown last time, he looked the real deal, and I saw him in the parade ring afterwards, and he looked like he did not put out a candle. And then they go and supplement a horse called Bring On the Night, who we know very little about. He won a 1.5 mile maiden for Andre Fabre in France. He's by Glen Eagles, and he wins at Naas, and they decide to supplement him for the race as well. But throw in the fact that Gordon Elliott is Mighty Potter, John Bon, sure what to say about him. No full sibling, no half sibling have won the Supreme ever, so he would be a first given the fact that he's a brother to Duvan. But my selection for the race from a betting perspective is Kilcrut, because last year he was my fancy to beat Sir Gerhard in the bumper. I know Patrick Mullins couldn't ride at the festival last year, but stable jockey Paul Townend did ride him over Sir Gerhard. And I think he's the forgotten horse of the race. This is a very good race. It's a little bit of Nicky Henderson versus Ireland. And I honestly can't tell you we're going to come out on top. This is a very good race.
So you do learn lots of things on these previews. I've learned how to pronounce Kilcrut.
Yeah, it's a place where Mrs. Mullins grew up.
Oh, yes, I think you've told me that before, Kilcrut. Okay, so yeah, like you said, Henderson versus Mullins. Henderson's got Constitution Hill, Jonbon in there. Mullins has got Sir Gerhard, Dysart Dynamo, amongst others, but those are the first four in the betting. If you had to kind of guess which ones are going to go there, which would it be?
My instinct tells me that Dysart Dynamo is going to step up and trip just because of the strength of the market for Sir Gerhard, even though I think it would be the wrong thing to do because he's very keen, very free, and has one way of running. I think the classier animal is probably Sir Gerhard, but there's no value in him. So I'm going Kilcrut for the fact that there's very little between them on last year's form. And I don't think he stayed 2.5 miles in his second start this year, where he was beaten by Manila Crooner and Journey With Me for 2 very good stairs. And on his first start in Cork this year, he was beat at odds of 1-14, which punters won't forget. But apparently on that occasion, he was in need of the run. So
okay,
I'm just willing to forgive him a little bit.
Okay, so Kilcrut for you. Going on what we think we know about who might run, Venetia, who do you like in the race?
You know, I think any advice that I might give everybody is not worth sixpence, because it's not a department that I've ever had much involvement in. So I think you're better off not listening to me at all on
Okay,
that.
right, moving on. Paul, if you could train one of these, who would it be in this race?
I think should Gerard be the one that run. There's been money for him. I've been impressed with him. I think he's the one they've all got to beat. Like you say, the impossible thing is all these horses been entered in so many different races. It's impossible to give an accurate assessment because we just don't simply know what's going to run where. But just the vibes tell you Sir Gerard's going to run in this race. Very impressive in the bumper last year. He's the one for me.
What about his jumping last time out? Was that?
Oh, they'll have sorted that out. I dare say they'll have done plenty of work. I expect Ruby's been on them a bit and they've been done plenty of schooling. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to really finding out who does run and seeing how that affects the prices. We're going to chat to Sam from Fitzdares a bit later on about the selections. Well, we're not going to bring him in on every race. It's going to be the big race, and then he's going to give us specials and market movers, etc. For the day, more of an overview. Let's move on to the Arkle, which arguably is a bit less of a conundrum because it looks like, well, according to the betting, according to what we've seen, Edwardstone's got a pretty good chance. Does everyone agree? Might this be one for the English, Jane?
Oh, I have to concede he's been good. He's been very good. I didn't think a horse that was 5th or 6th in the county hurdle last year would improve so much for chasing, but Put the Kettle On did, and this fella seems to be fairly flawless. He's an electric jumper. He was very good at Sandown. He's very good at Kempton. And I don't think you can pick holes in his form. The way he put away Third Time Lucky last time kind of made up Dan Skelton's mind that probably not worth coming here taking him on again. And I cannot, with any confidence, recommend an Irish horse. It's a great shame Fernie Hollow isn't here. You can't really say Auton Couleur coming here off the back of a fall. That's not ideal. Blue Lord beat Riviere de Tell at Leopardstown last time, but I think if she didn't make the mistake at the last, she may well have beaten him, albeit she was getting £9. But I don't think Blue Lord is a strong finisher. He certainly wasn't at Leopardstown. He certainly wasn't in the Supreme last year before he fell. And I think the Hill is going to be his Achilles heel. If I was looking outside of the top horse, Edwardstone, I think CL Dineige is worth a second look. He'll come from off the pace. He's been quietly campaigned this year, but I still don't see him troubling Alan King's horse. I think I might just give you this one. All right, I'm going to be really annoying throughout this preview with Irish horses. I will give you this one.
Phew, that's a relief. Venetia, does Brave Siaska run in this?
Yes, he does. That's a decision just been made in the last 24 hours. Yes, we're going to run him in that. Yeah, sure. You know, he was behind Edwardstown at Warwick, but he was only 5.5 lengths behind. Cheltenham will be a very, very different course to Warwick, which might see him in a better light. Yeah, we're gonna give it a throw of the dice.
Yeah, I always remember from, well, the days when my dad was training and being quite involved in the stable. There's so much that goes on in the yard and with the horses behind the scenes that people don't know about. And do you think sometimes the public, and from a betting perspective, we're guilty of looking at the bare form and the bare results and going, oh, well, that horse was beaten by that horse, so can't possibly beat that horse next time out. But as we know, often that's not the case.
Yeah, I think that's very true. But at the same time, most people have got nothing else to go on. So you can understand how these conclusions are drawn. But, I'm sure Paul would agree with me. There's so many things that can slightly alter the result of a race. How the horse meets the first fence and how the horse's confidence is immediately after that, how he meets the last few fences. So much can change, and I think sort of 5.5 lengths behind what everybody regards as one of the strongest chances of the British in the English. I think it's worth a roll of the dice, definitely.
Yeah, you've got me thinking about. I've got him about 33 to 1 here, so it looks tempting. We'll hear from Sam what kind of price he is. I admittedly didn't print those off. I did print those off a couple of days ago. Paul, any thoughts on the race?
Yeah, I think Edwardstone will be hard to beat. He's been very solid. He'd probably be a good start for the English, really, to be honest, if we don't win the first. As Venetia says, in racing, anything's possible and things can turn. Just because you got beat 5 lengths one day doesn't mean it on a different day, different track, you can't get a lot closer. But I think Edwardstone's very solid.
Okay, so pretty good consensus there about Edwardstone, but good luck to Venetia with Brave Sieska. We're going to go on to the champion hurdle next. Is Honeysuckle as close as you get to a good thing? Surely she is, Jane.
Yeah, she's perfect. She's pretty perfect. She's flawless record. She's tactically so versatile, mentally very, she's a jockey's dream. Any horse can get beaten, but she has just this will to win. Even when she wasn't right, I don't think anybody, would have been surprised if she got beaten at Punchestown last year when all of Henry's horses had come to the end of their year and were getting beaten out of sight at Punchestown. She still managed to win. From what we saw at the Hatton's Grace, the Irish champion hurdle this year, she looks as good as ever, which she should be given her age. And I think she has to underperform to get beaten. And it's probably going to end up being a small field, which will also simplify Rachel's task. And I suppose it's that turn of foot she shows between the third last and the second last that nobody can match. It's almost like after the second last, she's holding on. She's not extending her lead, but she's after showing that burst of pace that to date no horse has been able to match. And I think if she wins, and hopefully she does, the Irish crowd will make up for missing last year's festival. They'll raise the roof. And then the case has been made for the last couple of weeks that Appreciated will lay down the gauntlet to her. Well, when you're considering a horse that's never run an open company, a horse that was meant to be going chasing, point horse, albeit Honeysuckle is a pointer as well, that's your legitimate horse that you're trying to get this flawless mare beaten by. You're fairly clutching at straws. Now, if anybody can do it, Willie Mullins can do it. He did it with Penn Hill in the Stairs. He'd never run an open company when he won the Stairs hurdle, but he was a Mount Nelson. He was a flatbred horse. This horse is different. He's massive, physically huge. Tehupo was good in the Red Mills hurdle. He's improving. Zana here was improving when he was narrowly denied by Sharjah at Christmas, but ultimately I think Honeysuckle is a sight to behold. I hope she puts up the star performance that she deserves to get, and I think she will be, for the Irish, the start of many accumulators.
Yeah, like you say, it'd be nice for Rachel, for Henry de Bromhead, and well, for Honeysuckle as well, to get the reception that they deserve, which they were missing last year. Paul, do you think for Rachel this year it's going to be a bit different in the sense that there's going to be a lot of pressure on her shoulders because she's such a fan favourite now? Everybody knows her name, having won the Grand National, etc., that there's a lot more riding on her shoulders. Do you think she'll feel that?
Possibly, but she's a professional. She doesn't seem to have affected her much before. And in the Honeysuckle, she's got the reigning champion in the form of her life. I think she's one of the bankers of the meeting. I can't see her being beaten, to be honest with you. I don't think Rachel will worry about it. To be honest, if you're looking forward, if you've got something like this to ride, your confidence will be at a high, I'd say.
Yeah, she looks pretty straightforward, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Venetia, can you see Honeysuckle being beaten?
No, I certainly wouldn't want to be the killjoy to suggest that it might happen. Absolutely not. I'd be cheering on with everybody else.
So Sam, what does this race look like as a betting proposition? Because is Honeysuckle just putting people off having a bet?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen a few wilder prices maybe each way. But yeah, for us, I mean, we're 1-2 Honeysuckle, and we'd rather not lay her. We go 7-2 Appreciate It, but this is one of those boosts for anyone here. We'll happily go 9-2 for anyone here tonight. So if you think Willie can get him here, you might have quite a nice each way bet on that at 9-2. But yeah, we're not seeing much action in the race. I think, as was mentioned, she'll just be one for the accumulators all week.
I think we're actually going to have our first poll question, which I think I can probably predict the outcome of, given our panelists' unanimous support of Honeysuckle. But if we put the poll up on the screen, there we go. You at home can get involved and select who you think will be winning the champion hurdle this year. So you've got Honeysuckle, Appreciate It. Jane, is that an Irish word? Teahupu.
Teahupu. No, I believe it's a Maldive island, is it?
Oh, okay.
Not that I would know, being so frequented with the Maldives.
I prefer your pronunciation to Teahupu, or however else it's been done, but Teahupu.
You're probably all wrong. Teahupu.
No, I like it. And Epatante, of course, the previous winner of the race. She has won her last two, but we need to see how much she's back to her old self, and even if that is good enough to challenge Honeysuckle this year. So I think everyone can have their chance to vote. And I think, what was it? Oh yeah, here we go. Got their results in straight away. 83%, unsurprisingly, for Honeysuckle. Bit of support for Appreciate It and Epatante. Not much for Teahupu, and not many for others. So that's a pretty unanimous decision there for Honeysuckle. Our last race we're going to have a look at on Tuesday is the Close Brothers Mares Hurdle, which is basically an Irish affair, dominated by the Irish. What did I read here? Oh yeah, Mullins has won 9 of the 13 runnings, including 6 in a row with Cavega. Does he just win another one, Jane?
He'll have a lot of runners. I don't think he has a Benny de Joe or any power. He's not got an absolute certainty. Concertista's been chasing Echoes and Rains really keen, thought she was a champion hurdle horse this year until she proved she wasn't. Stormy Ireland, we're getting a lot of positive vibes about her, but I actually think Tell Me Something Girl is a good chance of bringing up a festival double. She came from the clouds last year in the Mares Novice. On the day, didn't think she was the best horse, but she had a run at Leopardstown at Christmas, and she was giving away 8 or 9 pounds to not to Royal Cala, but to Heaven Help Us and another filly that was quite good, and she was right on their tail. And she's going to be running off level weights with them, so I think she can turn them around easily with Heaven Help Us, who's also in the race, obviously won the Coral Cup last year. And I think she's a filly that will come up from off the pace. I'm told that Royal Cahala will run in the Stairs hurdle for Peter Fry, so she doesn't run here. Queensbrook is in there for Gordon Elliott. She's useful, but I don't think she's an absolute star. Mrs. Milner, last year's Pertemps winner, is in there for Paul Nolan. And don't forget about Molly Olive's Wishes as well, because I think Dan Skelton is running his other filly in Aintree, LA Bells. So yeah, as an Irish contingent, I'm thinking Tell Me Something Girl ahead of Willie Mullins's, but I don't think we have an absolute banker in this race.
Either way, Irish. So they're the races that we had picked out for the first day. Venetia, any other runners on the day to tell us about?
Probably not. We've got a few in the Ultima, but I don't think they're going to make the cut. So no, I think Brave Siska's probably our only runner on the first day.
And Paul?
Frodon's in the Ultima.
Oh yeah.
But he's 50-50 to run. I wouldn't run him on soft ground, and I just need to see him in sparkling form before the end of the week. So we'll just see what happens with him. And I've got a nice juvenile called Bell X1. Jane might know a little, probably knows more than me about him, because I would send him he's not run for me, but he's won over hurdles his last twice, one on the flat, got a mark of 130, and he appears to go quite nicely. So, it could be a lively outsider.
Okay. Sam, we'll come back to you. For the horses that our panelists have mentioned, have you got prices or specials or anything on them, or any interesting kind of market movers, interests of the day?
So picking up on those ones earlier in the Arkle, that Seal de Neige for that Jane mentioned is 14 to 1 with us, and Venetia's horse Brave Siaska there is 25 to 1. And following on from that, I did see it in the pop up in the chat. Someone was saying we actually got a special for this for day one, where we're going to try and back the British because we think it'd be a good result if they do win the first two for us. So any British horse to win the first two races will go 7 to 1. So obviously Brave Siaska could be running for you in the Arkle there. And then the one Paul just mentioned there, Bellex one in the Boodles, is a 20 to 1 shot with us. And things we laid, the only one on this day that's a bit of a worry for us is in that Boodles. We've laid Willie's horse, this Gaelic Warrior that's seemingly got an attractive mark from France and hasn't run yet. So that's one we want to get beat on the first day. But other than that, it's been quite quiet.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, on to day two. So we will start with the Ballymore, which is obviously another novice hurdle race, which is the race that many of those supreme horses might be choosing as an alternative. It's over 2 miles 5 as opposed to the 2 miles. So Jane, we've got Sir Gerhard at the top of the list, Constitution Hill, Ginto, Dice Up Dynamo, Journey with Me, stage start for Paul Nicholls. Can you kind of predict roughly who's going where with this?
Yeah, so not to be repeating what we've already said for the Supreme, I know Ginto goes here because Davy Russell is very much looking forward to him, albeit Jack Kennedy is going to get the ride on him. I think he was trying to twist Gordon Elliott's arm. He was very good in a grade 1 at Naas. I actually thought he was going to be more of an Albert Bartlett type horse, but he seems to be going here. Obviously he has a big price tag as well, given he's walking the park from a point to point, but he's lived up to that and he has won a grade 1. The same race actually that Bob Ollinger won on route to this. Journey with Me has a lovely profile. He's also a pointer. He won a falsely run race at Naas last time, but was good when he beat Minnacrooner and Kilcrot at Leopardstown in his maiden. Manila Cocooner is interesting, so try not to get your Manillas mixed up because I certainly did at Leopardstown. It's a mind model. Cocooner, named on behalf of the older people who were in nursing homes over during COVID who had to cocoon. He's a very forward-going horse, wears a hood, jumps very well, and has one style of running. If he runs in this, they will make use of his run style, and he will make the pace. And that maybe will set it up for a stage star to do what he did in the Shallow, albeit he's going to have to beat a certain trend. Not from 16, the Shallow hurdle winners at Cheltenham.
He's not biting. Paul?
They're to be beat, aren't they? That's so it's can't do no more than when he won that grade 1 very nicely. He's unbeaten over hurdles. It's been working nicely. Lovely horse. As you say, the race will. The better horses will be diverted elsewhere because I think 4 in the better head of the better might end up running on the first day. But yeah, we're looking forward to running him. He's in good form. So yeah, good chance, I'd say.
One of your better chances of the week?
Yeah, I'd say he is. Yeah. You know, any horse that wins a grade 1 going into the race, into the meeting should be competitive and have a good chance.
Perfect. Okay. What was your tip, Jane?
I didn't actually give one. Well, I am not sure because I don't know where horses are going, but I do like Journey with Me, particularly if the ground turns up on the easy side. Okay.
Venetia, should we keep going?
I think so. I have got one in it, but I don't think we're going to run him in that green book. If he goes to Cheltenham, he'll probably go in the 3 miler, the Albert Bartlett.
Okay.
Green book.
Okay, we can chat about him a little bit later. So that is the Ballymore, the Brown Advisory. So this is a 3 mile novice chase, which tends to compete with the Turners for similar horses. So we might have a bit of that confusion as to who goes where again. Paul, you are sending 2 here, correct? Brave Man's Game and 300 through 5?
Brave Man's Game and 300 through 5. Both won 4 novice chases on the trot. Obviously, Brave Man's Games won a grade 1. He won the Quarter Star, beat Hoysenia that day. Won with quite a tidy weight the last day at Newbury. He's in good shape. And 300 through 5, won his last 4, possibly quite well placed to win those races. But he's a horse you'd never know when he's beat, keeps on galloping and jumping. So, yeah, 2 real chances in this.
What's he like as a personality, Brave Man's Game? Because a couple of times I've seen him and I wondered whether he was taking the preliminaries that well, but then he's settled really well in the races. But is he getting better with each race?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only time he gets a little bit warm is when we saddle him and he goes into the paddock. Other than that, he's very laid back. And as soon as Harry's on him, he's fine. If he wasn't sort of a little bit hot and, like you said, a bit fidgety before, and you'd wonder what was wrong with him. So, yeah, he's basically an easy horse to do anything with.
And tactically, is he quite versatile?
Yeah, you can bowl along if you want to. 2 or 3 going along, you can just tuck him behind them. He's dead straightforward. Okay.
And Venetia, in your heart of hearts, saying, presuming the ground is kind of good to soft, where would you ideally like to be running L'Imprese?
Well, I'm pretty sure after today's discussion with Andy that unless the ground is properly soft, I think he'd be going for the Brown Advisory.
Okay.
So I'd be surprised if that changes.
And Jane, I think you would advise going for the Brown Advisory, wouldn't you? Because you're thinking the Turners with Bob Ollinger and probably Galopin Des Champs would be the more difficult option.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Now, I did say at the top, you're going to meet a good horse wherever you go. And if you come here, you're going to meet Brave Man's Game, who's looked like an absolute natural over fences. But I think the Turners could end up with a deeper field. Of the ones that'll likely end up here, Brave Man's Game is the horse to beat. Outside of him, Capodanno is good, but he was no match for Bob Ollinger at Punchestown. I think Lucinda Russell confirmed a High Senior to come here. He schooled after racing at Kelso. And then you're on to Fury Road, who won a Grade 1 at Christmas, but was well beaten subsequently by Galopin Des Champs at Leopardstown. So I do think that this field will turn up with maybe less depth than the Turners. And if that is the case, then we may have the 2 trainers fighting it out that are present and correct here.
We might indeed. Good luck to them both. That'll be a good race, and hopefully one for the British. We'll see where Galopin Des Champs goes, who's currently the favourite for the Brown Advisory. Right, next one, Queen Mother Champion Chase. Let's find the right page. Is this the race of the meeting? Just an unbiased opinion. I know, Venetia, you got Funambule Sibylla, and Paul, do you run Grenadine?
No, unfortunately, he had an injury to his eye. So he's going to miss and go to Sandown on the last day of the season for Celebration Chase. But Politolog will run. Winner of it 2 years. Yeah.
And might be his last race, did I read?
They're all Sandown. He won't run again next season. If he ran really competitive, good race in this and looked like he had a chance at Sandown, he may go there. If he doesn't run quite so well in this, we'll probably call it a day. But you think this is his 7th festival on the trot he'll have turned up at. And wonderful old horse. We kept him fresh and well. But, there's obviously some younger horses with younger legs. It'll be hard to beat in the race.
Yeah, gosh, when you look at the list, Shishkin, Energumen, Chacun pour Soi, Nubenegra, and Voyalin put the kettle on, and then we get to Funambule Sibylla. It's a pretty formidable list of horses, isn't it there? Venetia, how do you feel about your chances?
Well, you just put the wind up me by listing them all in order of merit. No, it's a fierce race, and you expect no less. I mean, it's a championship race. It's all about speed. And the chances are some of these horses probably won't have gone as fast as they're going to need to in their lives. But we'll see. He's a very small horse. He's only a pony. But he deserves to take his chance. I mean, at the end of the day, he's too small to be lumping top weight in the Grand Annual. And he deserves to take his chance.
Jane, all those horses I mentioned, we think they'll all go for this, won't we?
Yeah, you mentioned, is this the race of the meeting? It is, because racing is about speed, and this is speed over the biggest obstacles. And we've seen that duel at Ascot, but this is more than a duel. You've got a little bit more to the race. You throw in Chacun pour Soi if he turns up in the form that we know he can be in. How can an Ergamine turn the form around? You think tactically our team Mullen's going to do something different to try and beat Shishkin, but I actually was on a call with Nikki Henderson a couple of days ago, and I said, is it possible that you have a Gold Cup horse masquerading as a 2-miler? And he paused and he thought about it and he said, actually, you might not be far wrong, because it's in the last 200 yards at Ascot, he just got going. It was like he just joined in. He had done a couple of things wrong, jumps a little bit left, he had made his mistake, and he was comprehensively on top of an Ergamine at the line. So do I think Shack and Perswalk can turn up? I think Willie Mullins was very insightful after winning at the Dublin Racing Festival. He said he's going to do something different. It's going to leave him a little bit short. He's not going to give him his last piece of work. He's not going to give him his last piece of work. That's going to be in transit, because he thinks the horse gets to the races in the UK and it's a little bit flat. And I thought that was really open-minded of him. This man has obviously so many horses in training, has won so many races at Cheltenham, and he's still thinking of ways to improve. And it would be a massive training performance if you can get that horse to even turn up and be jumping upsides at the second last with the main two. And as for a lot of people will ask, what has happened to Envoy Allen this year? To be quite frank, Envoy Allen is not the same horse. He's, for a couple of seasons through his bumper year, novice hurdle year, novice chase year, he's the horse that everybody wanted to own, train and ride. But he won a grade 1 last time that was basically just, it was a grade 1 in name, not nature. He's not the same horse for whatever reason. And it's a great shame that he hasn't fulfilled that potential we all thought he had. But I think Shishkin is a bank. I would double him up with Honeysuckle and another one to add on later in the programme to make it a treble.
Okay, so just by that theory, you think he's going to stay further. So Cheltenham should test stamina more than it did at Ascot, right? Between the two of them.
Yeah. I think if any horse could win the Champion Chase and win the Gold Cup, it's him. He's by Shalikov. He's same sire as Don Cossack. And I would love, like, realistically, if he got beaten, they think, oh, we could step him up and trip. If he wins, he's just going to be Altior. He's just going to stay at 2 miles until he's too old, and then he'll step him up and trip when he's not at his prime. But so if I just planted the seed and I wanted to see what kind of reaction I got, and I was pleasantly surprised.
So if you're Mullins and you want to try and beat him tactically,
you go slow and sprint. But then
yeah.
You're not going to be allowed to do that in a Champion Chase with this kind of depth, because there's somebody else going to go forward and shoot.
Yeah, in Ergaman, I thought all he does is gallop and jump.
Yeah, and he's just the more natural 2-miler, because he was a winner everywhere at Ascot, bar the last 200 yards. And he was good at Cork on heavy ground. Last week, we didn't even know whether he was running this big market drift, but apparently he's fine. He had a stone bruise. His shoe came off, or he missed a day or two, and he's fine. Chacun Persois is this big monstrous galloper, and they cited last year that the gallop wasn't strong enough for him. But if you look at the freeze frame of the last fence last year, Nuba Negra put the kettle on. There was like 5 of them upsides at the last. For me, that means there wasn't real standout star amongst them, and he missed his opportunity to win the Champion Chase because this year's race is better.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned put the kettle on. Nuba Negra, 1st and 2nd last year, better race this year. Paul, I know you're close to Dan. He's quite bullish about Nuba Negra, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But, he had his chance last year. This is a much deeper race. He won early in the season, beat Plitzlog, and then he got, well beaten the Tingle Creek. I'm not sure that form's quite good enough against some of these better ones. And just heard you saying about the track. I actually think Ascot 2 mile 1 on that ground is a lot stiffer track than Cheltenham. We're on the new course, on the old course for the Champion Chase, which, unless the ground is testing, is a very sharp, almost easy 2 miles. You're always on the turn, running downhill. And Chiskin needed every single bit of Ascot to win on testing ground. It just might swing things the other way a fraction, in that I always think, everyone goes on about Cheltenham being really tested. It is when the ground's attritional. It's decent ground. That 2 miles, the past 2 miles. So it could be a really interesting race.
Okay, that's a really good angle on it too. Sam, how's the betting looking?
So another race with another short price favourite. Shishkin 4-7 with us, and then Energamine 3-1, Shakan 4-1, Nube Negra 9-1, 10-1 Envoy Allen, 16-1 Funambul Sibila, and a 20 Politolog. But we're going to do, if anyone wants to get Willie's horses, we're going to put the two together so you can get either of the Mullins duo to win at 2-1 with us. It's quite generous.
Okay, let's put the poll up for everyone at home to have their say on who they think is going to be the winner of the Champion Chase. I like the way you're pairing the Mullins horses, because I feel like he's said that he's not sure. Well, I think he's kind of suggested that Shakan is a better horse than Energumen. I guess it's just a case of him performing abroad, away from home.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? No one seems to, well, people want to take him on because he hasn't taken his A game to Cheltenham yet, has he?
Okay.
Shady for salmon about him, isn't there?
I'm going to say yes, but Jane, I had no involvement in jump racing for a really long time, till about 3 years ago. So I have to direct those to the rest of our panel. Right, so Shishkin and Energumen, Shakan Poswan, Nuba Negra, or another. We can't vote, but here are the results. Okay, so everyone, well, the majority in the Shishkin camp, not that many for Energumen, a few for Shakan Poswan. Nuba Negra gets 3% of the votes. But yeah, I think everyone's in Jane's camp there with Shishkin. And we look forward to maybe seeing him in a Gold Cup in the future. Who knows?
Don't say this live on ITV, because you'll just make a laughing stock of me, and you'll just end up winning 3 Champion Chases, and like it'll just be ridiculous.
Oh, but actually, from a slightly ignorant point of view, obviously the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup, of the 3 big chase grade 1s at the festival, they're the 2 people want to win. Like, is the Ryanair's obviously halfway in between? Would he go for that at some stage?
Sure. Why would you want a Ryanair when you can have the 2 showpieces are either or? Like, I asked the trainers, but well, I would prefer a Champion Chase or a Gold Cup. A Ryanair, really? I don't know. Like, I'd take it as a present if I was given it, but
but you'd always target one or the other.
It was just me observing the horse. I thought that would bring it even a better Shishkin. It's just trying to spice it up a little bit, because he's not as natural a 2-miler as a Sprinter Sacre, which I don't know if any other horse in my lifetime will ever be. And Altior didn't step up on trip until it was, he was too old to really fulfill that. He was by High Chaparral, so he had pace and he looked like a flat horse. I think Shishkin's different. Actually, I'd be interested to see what Venetia and Paul think. Is it completely absurd? Is it a completely absurd suggestion?
Who wants to go first? Venetia?
I'll defer to Paul. He's been more the expert on this. Gone, Paul.
Are you talking about Shishkin getting a trip one day?
Yeah, going 3 miles. 3 mile 2, Gold Cup.
That's a long way from 2 miles. And you get a lot of horses that are what I call staying 2-milers. They stay 2 miles, they go flat out for 2 miles, and they don't get a yard further. The specialist 2-milers, and he just could be one of those. Shishkin is flat out over 2 miles, and then he stays on strong at the end. That's what you want for a proper champion 2-miler. So I'd be surprised if we ever see him run over 3 miles, 3 mile 2. Totally different. Days.
And I think he just needs shaking up. I think every time he's looked like he might be vulnerable when Nico shakes him up after the last. I mean, we got within 3 lengths of him at Aintree last season, and few strides before the last, I thought we had a chance of beating him. And but once he got after him and sharpened him up, he went away, and it was never going to happen.
Yeah, he saves a bit up his sleeves for the last furlong, doesn't he? We've got the cross country, the Glenfarclas, on our list. Is it going to take much discussion, or is this the race that we're going to see the mighty Tiger Roll win and bow out on, Jane?
I think this is the race we're almost certainly going to see him retire on, because he's been taken out of the Aintree Grand National, and if he were to win, it would be his 6th Cheltenham Festival win, albeit not in consecutive years. It would replicate the achievements of the great Kvega. Do I think it's a foregone conclusion? No, I don't. He's a 12-year-old. I think any interesting in the Bulger horse could light him up. I think he's a great horse, but I don't know if he's too short. It probably is. Interesting that Delta were schooled over Banks recently, given that he's not that long ago people were considering him for a Gold Cup, but he just looks completely gone at the game, and maybe cross country will light him up, but it really needs to do that. Pringard, I don't think gets goals here. He was brought over from France to end the Bulgars. He was anti-post favourite for the race for much of the winter, but Pringade hasn't had a run, and I don't think he's going to go there without a run. Shady Operator is the obvious choice for End the Bulger if he doesn't go there. But yeah, I think Tiger Roll is a sentimental vote. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. If I was to take him on, I'd probably take him on with Midnight Maestro. Mark Walsh will probably ride him. Derek O'Connor will probably ride Shady Operator, and they were very tightly matched at Punchestown last time with Midnight Maestro coming out on top, and I think I'd be siding with him here.
Really? But Tiger loves the cross-country fences, and even, it was last year, wasn't it, when he seemed to be fairly out of form, and then he came there after they'd whinged about his weight for the Grand National, then he absolutely hosed up. Surely he just does it again.
Yeah, it would be nice to think that, but I don't believe in fairy tales, so okay. I don't know. There's also a part of me thinking, do you know, after you're kerfuffled now with the Grand National weights, I don't know what to think about that horse anymore.
It would be quite interesting, wasn't it? Because I kind of think, it would be such a wonderful result if he wins. It would be sentimental favourite. It would be a real crowd pleaser, etc. But I don't know. Paul, what do you think in terms of, for people who follow racing fairly closely, just the what's gone on with the Grand National and the weights? So do you feel there's a less connection to his connections in a way?
Yeah, I mean, if he wins the cross country race and retires afterwards, you can imagine he's going to get a wonderful reception. He's been a wonderful horse. Jane says it's not a foregone conclusion. He hasn't actually been in the best of form this year. He's 12 years old now, so it'll be an interesting race.
Have you got another one for us, or just?
I haven't even what's it, so I wouldn't have a clue.
Okay, Venetia, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I think as a 12-year-old now, and he's had some hard races in his life, and he's been an amazing little horse, but he hasn't really run that well since this race last year, and I think it'll be tough now, and I think it might be past as new for him fairly soon.
Okay, so the message from the panel is look elsewhere from a betting perspective in the cross country, and maybe Midnight Maestro, which is Jane's selection, and then the champion bumper. Jane, I'm gonna come back to you on that one.
I will just take this one. Is that okay? Because
yeah, just take it.
Are not just going to win this. We're gonna absolutely dominate this. Willie Mullins often comes here with a plethora of chances, but I don't know. I don't know if he's ever had a horse as exciting or as he has visually got so excited over with Facile Vega. It's probably the connection to his dam, Kivega, that even before he ever ran, he had this reputation. He was anti-post favourite for this race before he ever ran. He was good on debut, but that performance at the Dublin Racing Festival, just in what looked like a competitive race, I felt so sorry for the other trainers and the other owners, because they had what looked like good horses absolutely blitzed by this horse. He looks like he has loads of gears. Somebody suggested maybe the preliminaries, would they blow his mind? The way some horses, particularly in the bumper, because of their inexperience at Cheltenham, the Cheltenham circus can get to them mentally and they can run their race before they run. I don't think that's a problem personally. I've observed him closely, and his mother was difficult. He doesn't seem to have the same traits unless Cheltenham completely changes that. American Mike is very good. Gordon Elliott is a very good record in the race with Jamie Codd. He will ride him. He worked at Leopardstown today after racing. Everything went well apparently. I think he's a good horse. Patrick Mullins speaks very positively of Redemption Day. Mercury wasn't supposed to go here. He was meant to go to 4-year-old in Limerick, so I don't know if he lines up. Outside of the main talking horses, I was at Punchestown to see James's Gate run. He's owned by Sean Mulryan, and he was with Pat Doyle until a month before he ever ran. He never ran in a point. They bought him on spec on a piece of work. And having only been with Willie Mullins to win the way he did at Punchestown, I was very taken with. So if he improves on the back of that, I think he's a dark horse, James's Gate. Madman's Game, obviously brother to Braveman's Game, and there's lots of other chances in there. But if you're trying to look outside Facile Vega, which I think you should because he's no value, consider James's Gate.
Okay. Either way, most likely the Mullins horse will be winning and giving him his 12th win in the race, which is...
Patrick Mullins has a bad record of picking the winner, though. So that's other way of looking at it. Katie Walsh, Ruby Walsh, they all got winners in the Cheltenham Bumper. And even last year, Patrick probably wouldn't have ridden, Fernie Hollow was 2 years ago, and he wouldn't have ridden Sir Gerhard last year. So the outsider can win.
Okay. I like it. Right, so back to Sam for a bit of a wrap up of Wednesday.
Yeah, picking up on a few from earlier. So stage start in the Ballymore for Paul there. We are 6-1, but we will push that one out to 8-1 for anyone here tonight. And then the three from the panel here, with the 2 for Paul and 1 for Nisha in the Brown Advisory, 7-4 on Brave Man's Game, 5-1 Long Press, and it's 12-1 300 through 5. As I mentioned earlier, the 2 Willie horses, the special in the Champion Chase at 2-1. Outside of that, we're keen to get anything in the book in the bumper bar the favourite, so we'll take. We're going to go 3-1 American Mike, and the other one there that James just mentioned, James's Gate. That one is 10-1 with us.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's move on to Thursday, and we'll start with the Turners. So this is a race that's competing a bit for horses with the Brown Advisory. This one's over 2.5 miles, and we've got Bob Ollinger, Galopin des Champs, both at the head of the betting. L'Empresse, but it sounds like he might not go there, depending a bit on the weather. Brave Man's Game doesn't go there, we think. Blue Lord, Jungle Boogie. Is it a 2-horse race, Jane, between Bob Ollinger and Galopin des Champs?
Yeah, if the 2 horses go to the Brown Advisory, then it does look a 2-horse race. Bob Ollinger, much has been made of his jumping technique this year. Perhaps he's not as natural as a Brave Man's Game or a Gaillard or a Galopin des Champs, but don't forget the engine. You know, everybody thought turning in Punchestown, the Capodanno was going to give him a fright, and he got down and dirty and he extended away. I think the engine that we saw in the Ballymore last year really showed he's a point-to-point winner. He's coming from Henry Bromhead's stable. He's going to be absolutely schooled to the within an inch of his life. I think too much has been made of his technique. And Galopin des Champs, what can I say? You know, we went into 4 days of Christmas at Leopardstown, ample amount of grade ones to discuss, and we came out talking about a beginner's chaser. You know, he was just so natural. The fact that he jumped so quick at the Dublin Racing Festival, Paul kept taking him back because he wanted to teach him something. You can't just keep going long, because of course in lesser company you can do that and get away with it. He wanted them to learn something, and when he started to take a pull, the horse started to fight him a little bit, and then I think that's what will almost make up their mind to stay at 2-3 rather than stepping out and trip. Is you don't want to have that fight at Cheltenham. You want the horse to be forward going and natural. He won 22 lengths in his beginner's chase. He beat Master McShee, a grade 1 winner at the Dublin Racing Festival, absolutely at his ease. He's the more natural of the pair, and I think it was a real eye-opener in the Martin Pipe last year that I think Langardin met him. Like, what were you in a handicap? That was a real harsh realization to meet a horse like this guy. Galopin des Champs is a machine, and I think wherever he goes, he wins.
Okay, Galopin des Champs for you. Paul, Venetia, any thoughts?
Well, I spent a bit of time last night actually looking through these races, because I knew, you know, we had an important conversation this morning, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of Galopin des Champs. I mean, I hope I don't upset anybody, but I just don't think Bob Ollinger probably moves as well, maybe, as he did last year. You know, watching him win at Cheltenham, and he's only had the 2 runs this season, and you know, he's got a very short stride, short action, and the whole of the horse's carriage. Yeah, I can see, you know, him being vulnerable, and I'm hugely impressed with Galloping des Champs.
Okay, so that sounds like 2 votes for Galloping des Champs. Paul?
Going to be a race to watch. Yeah, both high-class horses. If Bob Bollinger turns up in the same sort of form as he was last year, I mean, I don't think anyone would have beaten him. He was just unbelievable. I know Harry Cobden, who rode Brave Man's Game, was just blown away by how this horse turned up at the side of him doing a half speed and just went up the hill like it wasn't there. And he just looked exceptional that day. If he turns up in that form, I still think it'd be hard to beat. But it's going to be one hell of a race to watch, that's for sure. It'll all be down to jumping.
Okay. It'll be, yeah, like you say, it'll be a hell of a race to watch. Let's move on, because Thursday's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? You've got a double header, essentially. You've got the Ryanair and the Stayers Hurdle. Not really sure who has top billing, but we'll look at the Ryanair first, which is it a particularly interesting race to discuss? Because we've got Allaho at the head of the market, then we've got Energumene, who probably doesn't go there, A Plus Tard, who probably doesn't go there, Chacun pour soi, no. And then you go to Chan Bleu, who's a roughly 8-1 chance. Is that the way you see it, Jane?
Yeah, Conflated probably doesn't go there either. He probably goes to the Gold Cup. Vaca de Duriz, second in the race last year, probably will go there, having won obviously at Ascot last time. Janadil, don't discount him, albeit he's been running out in trip. If he comes back in trip, he might have a place chance. Eldorado Allen, Styrian Forlange, God knows if he's running, stay away from him. But Allaho is my third leg of the treble. He's probably put up the most scintillating performance last year. He's now an 8-year-old. He probably is in his prime. He looks exceptionally good. Very simple to ride again. Forward going horse, loads of scope. Any horse that'll try and jump with him will want to be a good jumper. And he was messy in the John Dirk, and it was a messy kind of a race. Styrian Forlange was actually going to give him a fright that day before he fell, but of course he does fall. And his last run at Thurles, he beat Vaca de Duriz out of sight. So I think he's one of the Irish bankers of the festival, and I wouldn't go opposing him too lightly.
Just remind us of the treble: Honeysuckle, Shishkin,
and Allaho, and there's another one to come. We'll make a quadruple yet.
Oh, okay. On the edge of our seats. Can't wait to hear who that one is. Anyone want to take on Allaho in the Ryanair?
Well,
It's difficult.
we're gonna have a go, but I think we'll do our best, but we're probably running for place money.
Yes, sorry, Fagnon d'Estruval. Okay, so you think place money at best?
Well, we'll give it a shot, but I think realistically, Allaho looks invincible.
Okay, and Paul, St. Calvados, does he go there?
Yeah, in a run. I've still got Hitman in the race, but I think I'm going to save Hitman for Aintree. He's a 6-year-old and still a lot of maturing to do. And I could give him a hard race in the Ryanair, not get anywhere, and then sort of leave the season behind. So we'll probably wait for Aintree with him. But St. Calvados, if it keeps on drying up and the ground's not too bad, he was second in the race 2 years ago. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran really nicely. Forget his last run in that very heavy ground at Ascot. A few issues to put behind him. We've just started doing things a bit differently with him, so we're still learning about him, but he's well capable of running well on decent ground.
Yeah, because he looked exciting,
said,
didn't he? And then Ascot was a bit of a flop. Yeah,
well, the ground was very heavy. I think he ran well at Kempton. He stood there in the King George, and if he can return to his best form, then he's not without a chance. But I think we're all playing for places. If Allaho turns up like he did last year, I'd say nothing will beat him. He was just awesome last year.
Okay. Meanwhile, the Stayers Hurdle, a little bit more, well, definitely more open than the Ryanair. You've got last year's winner, Florin Porter. You've got Time Hill, who missed the race last year. Champ, who was disappointing to see him beaten on trials day by Paisley Park, who's also in there. And then you've got Classical Dream there amongst the main chances. But probably quite a good betting race. Which way would you go, Jane?
Well, I'd like to get Sam to work here now and give me a price on what the likelihood is for a false start. And then while I talk about the horses, you can give me a price, because I think that's a very likely event.
Do you know what? You just mentioned Sam and you've reminded me that I've forgotten to bring him in. I was meant to bring him in after the Ryanair and the poll question. So hang on, let's just go back and do that. Sam, prices for the Ryanair, please.
Yeah, again, like most of these races, the big races, it's looking a bit uncompetitive. Allaho 8-13, and then a lot of horses probably not turning up in the middle there. Of the likely next runners, Shamblu 8-1, and then the few that were just mentioned, Janadil 10-1, St. Calvados 14-1, and Fanny and Destrabal 25-1 there.
Okay, and I mean, what's our poll going to say? Because I think it's going to be fairly heavy in the old favour of the favourite. So Allaho Aplutards in there, Shamblu, Nergamain, like we said, plenty of these are unlikely to be going. So basically everyone tick the box that says Allaho, given what everybody said, and we will move on to the stayers, which, as I was saying, does look to be quite open. And actually 4 of the last 8 winners were at odds between 10 and 14-1. Don't forget Lisnagar Oscar that won at 15-1. Yep, there we go. Allaho 79%, but a bit of support for Shamblu, who, like Sam said, is the next most likely runner. So we can probably get rid of that and move on to the stayers. Jane, what were you saying?
I can't remember. So
you want to challenge Sam? Something.
Most likely false start. Yes, give me a price on a false start there, because I think that's a good bet. I've got quite a long walk into the tape.
No, some maybe like a pick and price, even money. I guess I'm not sure. It's going to be. I hope Flooring Porter gets his revenge at the start this time, but I don't know.
Okay, so you give me 10-1. Thanks very much. I think the long walk into the tape will really be the detrimental factor for Classical Dream. He's not a terribly difficult horse, but I think with the crowds returning this year, he does like to bolt, and we know how difficult that is for a jockey. Flooring Porter, also a little bit of a head case. Won the race last year as a 6-year-old. Danny Mullins was able to roll over on him and not touch his mouth. If he has to fight him, he can hang either way. Kind of the horse just decides on the day, and there's nothing worse. When he missed the tape at Leopardstown, he ended up tracking Classical Dream, but he never looked like he could get out and around him, because he was hanging in left. So if he does that at Cheltenham, he needs to be in front. And that's what he did last year. Everything was perfect, poetry. It was Danny Mullins' first time sitting on the horse, and he managed to pull off a magnificent ride on him. He's quite small, but he's a very stout stayer. And if he does get his own way on the front end, he'll be very, very hard to catch. Just can't get away from the fact that Classical Dream, despite, blowing out at Goran last time, well beaten by Royal Kahala, who will run in this race, he had the class to win a Supreme, so just don't completely write him off. Time Hill, probably a horse that never got the credit he deserves. Good Champ, he's good. Paisley Park is a 10-year-old. Can he do it as a 10-year-old? I'd be surprised and kind of disappointed in the younger horses if they can contain him. And Asterion Falange probably won't go here. So my selection is Flooring Porter, but if I was putting my hard-earned money on him, I would be waiting until the tape drops.
Okay, Flooring Porter for you. Yeah, you're right. 10-year-old Paisley Park. That's a negative read of trends in this race. Champ's also a 10-year-old. I was kind of expecting him to win quite nicely on Trials Day, Champ, and then Paisley Park goes and wins, having missed the start terribly. Paul, do you think that's not a particularly good trial for this race?
It was a funny result. I was surprised Paisley Park won it from where he started off. Yeah. It just shows that he didn't get that quick early on in the race, and then he was able to pick the pieces up late on. It's a very open race, this. Champ, I suppose, has got it all to do now after getting beaten there at Cheltenham, having won so well at Ascot. Different type of race that day. Classical Dream, if he's back to his best, if he hadn't run so bad the last day, would probably be favourite and would be hard to beat. But Jane probably, I don't know when they ever came up from that last run. But it just wouldn't surprise me, Paisley Park, sort of, the championship races at Cheltenham, they always go good gallop, and he might just float around like he did the other and outstay them up the hill if he's in that form again.
Yeah, he's a bit like that, isn't he? Often hits a flat spot and then comes through. You're right, a strong tempo, decent sized field, and yeah, he would be a sentimental favourite, a good one. From our perspective on ITV, we love Andy Gemmell, and actually he had an operation last time on trials day, so he wasn't there to see him. So hopefully he can be this year. Venetia, do you have a fancy?
I'm sorry, I'm going to be very boring, actually. I thought I was going to be novel in suggesting Paisley Park, but everybody's
good.
got there first. I just thought what he did the other day, he got completely left, and in a way that sort of probably slightly played into the sort of nature of the horse that he is now. That it was all came through late and probably didn't really realise he was in a race till late on. And I could see in what's probably not the strongest version of the race, I could see him doing a repeat.
But Jane's talking about likelihood of a full start and the long walk into the start. Is it a concern when a horse starts doing that? I think it's the second time he's done that in a race, that he's going to do it worse next time, as in the stopping and turning around at the start. Do you think, Venetia?
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Jane. Yeah, no, of course it is, but they're going to be wise to it this time, though.
Okay.
And I'm sure they'll have all the assistance that they need to try and get it right this time.
Okay. No cheekiness from Paisley Park. Sam, can we have the odds, please?
Yeah, finally a decent betting heat, this one.
Yeah.
I think probably because all the horses at the top have all got a bit of a quirk. They've all got something that they do slightly wrong. But Flooring Porter 3-1 favourite, Time Hill 4-1, Classical Dream 9-2, and then a couple that we're happy to push the price on. Champ 9-2 will go 6-1, and just because I think everyone would like him to win, it'd be great. It'd be a great story. Paisley Park 6-1, out to 8-1 there.
Okay. Let's put the poll up, and like Sam said, and like everyone said, it's much more open, so this could have a more interesting result. Fingers on buzzers, please. Make your selections. Trying to think who I'd go for. Paisley Park.
You're going with murder. We're going
I know.
to all these questions on you.
Hosts and panelists can't vote. And like you say, Jane, it's all about absorbing information. So I sound really clever by this time next week. Although when you're standing alongside Ruby Walsh and AP McCoy and Mick Fitzgerald, etc., nobody wants to know what I have to say. So I'm just there, like tonight.
Don't believe that for a second.
Traffic moving on. Right. Do we have a result? What are we going to look at next? Oh, okay. Paul and Venetia have done a good job of persuading people into Paisley Park. It's also great, isn't it?
Hearts over heads.
Yeah, I know, but that's what Cheltenham's about, isn't it? These are favourite horses that keep coming back year after year. Love to get the heart involved. Bit of support for Flooring Porter, Time Hill as well. Only 9% for Champ and a little bit for Classical Dream. Great. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved in the polls. Where are we? Mares, Novices, Hurdle. That sounds like one for you, Jane.
Mares, not Hurdle. Look, there's a theme with this race that usually goes to Closutton, and I think he's got a stranglehold on it this year. Brandy Love was enigmatic, shall we say, at Fairyhouse last time. I've never seen, not since York Hill at Aintree, have I seen a horse harass Paul Townend like this mare did. Jumping left, hanging left, and still managed to finish second to who was Antipode's favourite, Allegory Devassi. Now, of course, she's out with a hock injury. Brandy Love now usurps her as first. She's talented, but she's difficult. She can be very keen, and I think the preliminaries could get to her. If I was to take her on, it would probably be with her stablemate Dino Blue. She's by an extraordinarily good sire in Dr. Dino. She's a sister to Blue Sari, who nearly beat Envoy in the Champion Bumper a couple of years ago, and she was extremely good on her only start at Clonmel. And I think the yard are very, very confident in her. Throw in the fact that you Party Central from Gordon Elliott's impervious for Colin Murphy. That would be a great story. Colin back with a good mare. He used to have some very good horses like Big Zeb and Vuller La Vedette. She's definitely not without her chance. Haven't seen her actually since the Royal Bond in November, but I know she's on target for this race. Grangy is a good mare. So yeah, I think Dino Blue, but very little evidence to go on with some of these mares. Usually safe to stick to Clissocken.
Mullins, who's trained all 5 winners of the race so far, likely to continue his stranglehold.
Harry Fry's mare is a mare, Love Envoy, but she's difficult and she's keen. And if she gets taken on for the lead, which she may well do with Brandy Love, they could end up burning each other out.
Okay. I mean, he does run plenty, doesn't he, Mullins, in these kind of races, but he does tend to win it. Well, this one, he's won every renewal of it. I forgot to ask Wednesday, but Thursday, does anyone, Paul and Venetia, handicaps on the day or other runners that we haven't focused on?
Right. It's very hard to know what's going to make the cuts.
Yeah.
Most of mine at the moment are just hovering out of it. So yeah, look to the other races.
Anything, Paul?
Yeah, ran a nice horse in the plate, Handicap Chase, Simply the Bets, who won at the festival 2 years ago. Got a carry top weight of a mark of 155, but he loves the track. He could run well at a price. And a nice horse called Cat Tiger in the Kim Muir that will be ridden by Mr. Maxwell. Won on him at Ascot recently. Tough horse, stays nicely. Again, got a chance. And all these handicaps are so competitive. You go in there thinking you've got a chance and you can run a blind and finish 6th. But Cat Tiger and Dave Maxwell certainly give you a run for your money.
Okay. Sam, any other business on the day on Thursday? Any movers?
No, in terms of anything we've laid recently, no, it's a pretty quiet day. I think it's probably going to be all about getting one of those short ones beat. So if Galopin de Champs goes here, getting him beat or getting Araho beat, but I'm not sure that's going to be possible, but we'll have to hope and pray, I think. Just those 2 that Paul mentioned there, Simply the Bets, 14-1 in the plate, and Cat Tiger 16-1, but we do sponsor David, so we'd happily go 20-1 there, so we can all enjoy a nice winner with David if he gets over the line.
Another one would be a good story. He's so entertaining, isn't he? He always gives a great interview, and I have a lot of respect for someone who can have a full-time, very successful career and do what he does in the saddle as well. So good luck to David Maxwell. Right, so Friday, let's start with a very interesting race, the Triumph Hurdle. Venetia, do you run the famous?
No, nothing in that.
No. Anything for you, Paul?
No, nothing. Should be watching Pied Piper win.
Watching Pied Piper win?
Yeah,
okay.
He won at Cheltenham recently, very, very impressively. There's lots of talk about lots of horses, but you can't do any win any race around Cheltenham any easier than he did recently. And he was a good flat horse. I think he's a proper horse.
Okay, but wasn't the thinking that Elliot's got 2 in it? Phil Daw was meant to be the better one. Phil Daw then gets beaten by Vauban. So Vauban goes to the head of the market. Am I right, Jane?
Yeah, you're audacious now at saying Theodore is meant to be the better one. He's the more national hunt bred. I was trying to probe Davy Russell into picking one the other day because, of course, he's the choice of which to ride. And he wasn't giving his game face away at all. I think if the ground is heavy, which it probably is unlikely to be, he'll ride Fieldor because he's the stout stayer. He's by Mark Line, who came from the same man who produced Envol and Don Cossack. And maybe he's the horse for the future, but I think Pied Piper has more gears. Paul Mendy was a good horse on the flat. He was a good horse for John Gosden. He beat Vauban and he's maiden hurdle at Punchestown. I was actually there. There was very little between them. Davy Russell planted a trap for Paul Townend to go into. He came off the rail. Paul went inside and then he cut the snout off him, and it ended up being a very tactical maiden hurdle. There was very little between them on that occasion. I'd say there won't be very much between them at Cheltenham. And I think the Galloway horse might win. I think Vauban, he hung quite badly right at Leopardstown, which is obviously a negative. But he was ridden on the outside, and I don't think they'll do that at Cheltenham. I have a lot of respect for Gary Moore's horse in Porticello. This is a very good Triumph, and if I was to split Vauban and Pied Piper, there's not going to be much between them. And I'll go Camp Mullins, but with no great confidence.
So Vauban, but the betting kind of suggests it's a 3-horse race, isn't it? Vauban, Pied Piper, Phil Daw. Then you've got Night Salute, Porticello at around 12 to 1. I mean, I know Sam's odds is probably different to what I've just printed off from the Racing Post, but Knights Sleep Porticello look like the strongest chances for the English, don't they, Jane?
Yeah, this bracket usually doesn't interest me very much, but you know, when you have the class to win a listed race on the flat over a mile and a half, that's the kind of horse you're coming up against here with Vauban. Like a lot of horses, the Fred Winter's going to end up a very good race because a lot of horses over here are avoiding the top three. The likes of the Tide Turns, Brazil, they would legitimately be good trying for hurdle horses in a normal year. But I think Pied Piper's performance at Cheltenham, Vauban at Leopardstown, that's frightening a lot of people.
Okay, so we'll probably say that one's likely to go to Ireland, the Triumph. Yes. So if we move on to the Albert Bartlett, which is the third race on the day, Novices Hurdle, this one the longest distance of them at about 3 miles. Do we give Hillcrest a good chance here? He's the favourite, and he was unlucky, wasn't he, when he was unseated right a couple of starts ago, went one last time, and he just looks like, I can't wait to see him in the flesh, Jane, because he looks like a big monster of a horse, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a very good horse. He's very exciting for Henry Daly. He made amends at Haydock, and I think it's very difficult to fault him. It's just a case of, yeah, Albert Bartlett can often go to an outsider for whatever reason. This often takes a horse who's really battle hardened, and maybe you could, say, oh, because he's so big, will it come too soon in his career? Well, he's a 7-year-old, and if Henry Daly thinks he's forward enough, then take it on his word. Manila Crooner is second favourite, I think. I don't know if he has the class to win a race at Cheltenham. He's a good stayer, but he might just get outclassed by a classy stayer. Ginto Journey with me, Manila Crooner, they're all likely to go. Maybe Ballymore. There's a horse in there called the Nice Guy. The Nice Guy, like in real life, he's going completely under the radar. He's completely not getting the credit he deserves. He's 3 from 3. He won 2 bumpers, and he won his maiden hurdle at Nace when I was there, and he couldn't have been more impressive. So don't forget him. Chantreuse won the race at Clonmel that Manila beat Allaho in a couple of years ago when he went on to win the Albert Bartlett. That's the route that Henry de Bromhead took with him, and he's doing the same with Chantreuse, albeit what he's achieved so far and what he's beaten is probably not up to the same caliber as a Hillcrest. So the Albert Bartlett is often open. This year's renewal is no different, but I would usually go outside the top horse because that's the way the trends look at it. Often the favourites can get beat.
Oh, come on, it's one that we might be able to claim or hope to be able to claim.
We might claim it with a different one. Maybe there's somebody here with a better horse. I don't know.
Well, hang on. Henry Daly, Gordon Elliott, Henry de Bromhead, Mullins, de Bromhead, Elliott, Mullins, Archie Watson, Staghorn.
Yeah, actually, Golden Horn, could he have an Albert Bartlett winner? It's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Okay. Paul, you have one in there, Petrusian, but
no, just no. And I haven't got an opinion on this race at all. I won't have a runner. To be honest, I haven't really looked at it. Hillcrest, if we did run super horse, potential World Cup horse possibly, but there's talk that he might wait for entry, so until they confirm, obviously no one's going to know, but he'd be the best of the English horses anyway. Okay.
Venetia, should we move on to the Gold Cup?
We can, yes. Yeah, we saw the back end of Hillcrest at Haydock, and he was hugely impressive there, so I'd love to see him go in for Henry.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Right. So let's go to you first of all for the Gold Cup. Royal Pagaille, what chance?
Gosh, and any rain will be helpful, but that's a bit of a boring refrain. Yeah, it's he goes there with a chance. He ran in the race last year and was outpaced from an early stage. I think he's a better horse this year. Everybody's talking about the race as if it's a more open race this year. But believe you me, it'll take one hell of a lot of winning. It always does. But we go there with a chance.
Actually, sorry, because someone just mentioned, is Greenbook running in the Albert Bartlett? I think you mentioned earlier on that he might.
Yes, we did mention that. It's far from certain at the moment.
Okay. Right, so lots of rain needed for Rob Guy and a bit of luck, because at the top of the marker we've got the likes of A Plus Tard, Galvin, Manila Indo, Protectorate, Album Photo, Tornado Flyer, Conflated, all in the betting above him. Should we go to next? Paul, what are your thoughts on the race?
First of all, gutted not to have a runner this year. Must be, I think, one of the first times for a long time. So just did it where it is. I mean, Frodon's obviously not any younger. He won't want to be running in. Clan hates Cheltenham, so he's going to Aintree. So I should be watching it. I've actually thought all season Galvin would win. I think he was very impressive. He won last year. He ran very well behind Frodon in Down Roar. Obviously, that wound him up, and he then won nicely at Leopardstown, being A Plus Tard. He's got it all. That horse, I think, he'd be the one to beat. I've thought all season, nothing's made me see anything different, that he won't win a Gold Cup.
Okay, Galvin, for you, who's Jane going for?
Yeah, all year, I thought this is A Plus Tard's year, because he's at the right age. He ran such a good race last year, and that performance in the Betfair Chase was scintillating. And then Galvin galloped by him at Leopardstown. Now, you think if Rachel had her chance again, she might win the Savills Chase, but good horses tend to get you out of jail. And Galvin is the improver, and he's probably the stronger stayer. He's in front of Manila Indo, just behind Frodon, and the Down Royal run, that was a very good run, and he's progressed since then. Trust Manila Indo to turn up £7 better than anywhere else when he goes to Cheltenham. He's just such a course specialist, and Henry de Bromhead will have him a right for that. Willie Mullins's challenge, just don't forget Album Photo. Like, for whatever reason, we haven't been able to grasp this horse or give him any kind of credence. We don't even know what kind of person he is. Usually by the time they win 2 Gold Cups, we're after knighting them or something special, but this horse just doesn't seem to get that, because he doesn't run enough. And I think if Venetia's conditions come up, soft to heavy, Album Photo and Royal Guy will be absolutely singing. But if I was to be really honest, A Plus Tard is the horse for me. He's the classy horse. Whether some people will say, oh, he didn't stay last year, that's bull. He finished in front of everything bar one last year. He did not stay. He just got beaten by a better horse on the day. Yeah, so it's between A Plus Tard and Galvin. And if Rachel Blackmore could win the Gold Cup, to be just crown a great week.
I feel like you could argue this race a lot of different ways, couldn't you? Because you could say, oh, well, Manila Indo beat him last year. He obviously liked Cheltenham. He liked the trip. He liked the conditions. And then you can say, well, Galvin beat A Plus Tard last time, so he should be more fancied. So you can make a case for plenty of them. But I think I'm probably with Paul, actually. Galvin seems to be the most straightforward, with a good recent win over A Plus Tard. What's the betting saying, Sam?
Yeah, so at the moment we have A Plus Tard 3-1. He's won. We're going to push to 4-1, but I'm not sure how wise that is now, hearing what Jane said. But yeah, we're going to go 4-1 on him tonight. 7-2 Galvin, 5-1 Manila Indo, 8-1 Protectorate, and then it's 9-1 Album Photo, bigger the rest. 16-1 on Royal Guy at the moment.
Okay, should we have a look at the poll? What does everybody think at home in terms of the Gold Cup? It is, well, for many it's the Holy Grail, although I've asked a few people recently, would you rather win the Gold Cup or the Grand National? I've had the Grand National come back at me quite a few times, which is interesting. But who do we think at home is going to be the most likely Gold Cup winner this year? I think this could be quite even. Drum roll, get the results in. Okay, Galvin, by quite a margin there. Paul, you made a good case for Galvin.
Yeah, he's a good horse, he is, course form, and yeah, he's improving. It'll be interesting.
And he's going to have Davy Russell. He's such a wily old fox going around there. Also worth mentioning Chantry House. Nicky Henderson's very happy with him, and you'd be unwise not to mention him given his course form, and he is a very classy horse in his debut. Without his King George run this year, I think he'd be a lot shorter in the market.
Be interesting race this year. because Frodon was swinging along last year and went along at a right good gallop and set it up for some of those real strong stayers. There's no, if you look down through there, there's no real pace angle. There's no real strong front runner in the race. They always go quick in the Gold Cup, but it's not. It could just be very tactical this year without a real strong front runner there. What do you think, Jane? Is there anything? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. And I was looking at Conflated. He won a falsely run affair at Leopardstown, and he caught Manila Indo for pace from the second last to the bend. But there isn't, because Run Wild Fred is going to run in the National Hunt Chase. Santini and Chantry House need a strong pace to run at. There isn't any obvious horse, so I think like the likes of Manila Indo would love a strong gallop, but he's too idle to do it himself. So that's a bit of a conundrum.
Very interesting.
There's a question on the chat saying, did we mention the King George winner Tornado Flyer? And it seems strange not to mention the King George winner, but it's a very different kettle of fish here, isn't it?
Yeah, we're talking about a race that mightn't actually have the pace of a King George, and he came basically picking up pieces when the pace collapsed in Kempton. And I don't think that's going to happen in this Gold Cup.
Okay, great. Okay, right. Well, we are racing through them. I actually, we've done the poll. Paddy Power's Mare's Chase sounds, well, it's the last race we're going to look at. It sounds like one for you, Jane. Another one.
The Mare's Chase. Look, some people are in disagreement that it shouldn't have been introduced at all. It was a good race last year between Colreevy and Ellie May. Colreevy went on to Frank the Farm at Punchestown, so she was a genuine winner, and it might be Ellie May's year to gain her revenge. She was very good last time. She's very simple. She's quite small, but she's a very good jumper. She's going to have to beat Mount Ida, who didn't look likely as a winner last year until Jack Kennedy got her back into contention. She's quite an idle mare. She actually had a Gold Cup entry. She's been in prolific form this year, arguably in a career best form this year when she won at Fairyhouse in Clonmel, where some people will quite rightly point out that she beat Ellie May at Fairyhouse, but I think Ellie May will turn that around. Concertista could go here. She could go Mare's Hurdle. Riviera de Tell probably running the Arkle. Outside of Ireland, I like a horse called the Glancing Queen, Alan King's mare. She's quite talented. Her rating of 141 would suggest she'd have to improve on that to win, but I wouldn't discount her out of sight.
Okay, thank you. Venetia and Paul, other runners on Friday?
Well, I've only going to have one runner on Friday. Looking at if Nappers Hill doesn't get in the handicap, so he's on the edge. He's in the Martin Pike. If he gets in, I think he'd have a great each-way chance. But Bob and Co and the Fox Hunters, I think he's got an outstanding chance. He beat Bill away at the Punchestown Festival last year when David rode him. He had a nice prep the other day at Haydock on very, very heavy ground. He would like better ground, and he was going very nicely behind the leaders last year when he unseated, actually, Sean Bone at the third last. I think he's in great form, and I think he's got a great chance.
I've got Pink Legend in the mare's race, but I don't think she's good enough. She might have a run. She won the Lady Protectress, but I don't think that was a strong run with that. But you never know. I think the race will cut up to. I don't think it'll be a big field, so she might be able to sneak a place if we're lucky.
Just quickly, someone asking, what was the Paul Nicholls horse in the Martin Pike that might not get in? What was that?
Nappers Hill.
Nappers Hill.
Nappers Hill. Yeah.
Someone's replied as well.
One more for the Nappers Hill. For the Martin Pike, last year it was won by Galpin Deschamps, and before that it's been won by Don Poley and Sir Deschamps, and like proper horses win the Martin Pike. And you're trying to think who will be the next Galpin Deschamps, and it could be a horse called State Man. He won a maiden hurdle at Limerick last time. He was ridden by Richie Deegan, so I'd imagine Richie Deegan will probably retain the right. He's a conditional rider. So State Man in the album photo colours for the Martin Pike.
Okay, now I've just got written on my running order. All panelists to confirm their dark horse for their meeting and their nap. Venetia, can we start with you?
Oh gosh, I think Alahose is the nap. Gosh, the dark horse. There's nothing terribly dark about it, but yeah, I've got a horse called Chambard that keeps pulling it out of the bag, and he just might sneak into one of the handicaps because he just picked up a £5 penalty for winning yesterday. So he's certainly dark anyway, that's for sure.
Chambard.
Yes.
Okay, great. Jane?
Yeah, my nap is Honeysuckle. She's the star going across the water from here, and I hope she shines. And my dark horse is State Man, because I think he's a grade 1 horse running in handicap.
Hang on, did we get the fourth leg of the...
You didn't this year.
What was it?
Sharp out you are. I was gonna, after Paul tipped Bob and Co, I wasn't gonna say that I think Billaway is probably in the form of his life and he's gonna have blinkers on and he just looked better than ever last time. So I think Billaway can finally give Patrick Mullins a Hunter's Chase.
Okay. Okay, that's an exciting what is it? What do we call it? A quadruple? No, not a treble. It's
a 4-time or whatever it is. It'll probably be gone after 2 anyway. So.
But we wish you luck with that. And Paul, your dark horse and your nap, please.
My nap of the meeting, I'm not going to go with one of mine. I'm going to go with Galvin in the Gold Cup because I've always felt that all the way along. And a dark horse, Fabulous each way in the Coral Cup.
Perfect. Thank you. Sam, are you going to participate?
Yeah, the nap, I'd have to go with Allaho. And then for the dark horse, I like a horse called Embittered in the plate. I'm not sure he's going to go for the plate. He might go back to the Grand Annual again. But he's sort of 20-1 non-runner, no bet in the plate. And I think if he goes to that race, I think the step up will suit him, and he'll have a live chance. Went off sort of 9-2 favourite for the annual last time. So we'll see.
Right. Well, good luck with that, and good luck with all the betting side of things next week. And I see Ed Seyfried has popped back up on our screens.
I've reappeared. The house stinks of chicken and garlic. So it must be time for us to wrap up. We were going to do a Q&A, but actually there's only been really one question that's repeated time and time again. So I'm just going to ask the one question, and I'll probably ask it to you, Paul. Why are there so many horses that are entered in so many different races and they reappear so many times? What are trainers trying to achieve by entering their horses multiple times?
To get them in the right race, I suppose. I try to focus on a race and stick to one race and perhaps give them a backup option, like I did Brayman's Game, was in the 2, 3 and the 2.5, just in case we'd had a terrible weather forecast or a lot of rain and the ground got very, very heavy. Something like the same with Venetia would have done with her horse. But some of the handicaps, particularly some of the Irish trainer, and Willie will enter some horses in every single race. It's just the way it is now, I suppose. But I don't know why he's spending your money, owner's money. And sometimes you've got to try and be a little bit sensible, not overdo it. But some horses would be at 5, 6, 7 entries, 8 entries at the meeting.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times that question came up. The others all came up. You guys all answered because you've been such a great panel. Being such a great panel, thank you all very much for joining. Jane, thank you very much for coming in from Ireland. Venetia, great, best luck with Royal Pagaille. Paul, Brave Man's Game. Sam, good luck laying those ones that you laid at really long odds, which are really going to get in trouble. And Francesca, thank you so much for corralling this great crew of people into. I've taken some notes, and I'm expecting to be very rich after this. So I'll see you guys in Mauritius. And thank you all very, very much for joining. And thank you all, the guys, the 2,000 of you all plus, for joining in too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.